All right, hello everyone, and yeah, welcome to this week's art tutorial, which is going to continue our mask making project. Last week, I demonstrated to you how to take your basic kind of underlying mask substructure here and create a sort of superstructure over the top of it made from a cereal box like this, which is going to start to give us a slightly more flexible base, if you like, upon which to build our unusual creature head form. What I'm going to demonstrate to you today is how we go about extending off the front of this mask to start to create a nose or a beak or a mouth or something of that sort, which is going to disguise the face here. It's going to hide that, but it's also going to extend into 3 dimensions the overall kind of creature form of our mask. Now, this is where you've got a little bit of freedom, really, to start to kind of interpret and develop and create the particular creature that you want to create. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to demonstrate to you 2 sorts of options, if you like, that you can use. You can either more or less do exactly what I'm going to show you here, or if you're feeling particularly creative and confident about what you're doing at this stage, then you can adapt what I'm about to show you now to come up with something more individual and personal to your particular project. What you're going to need to do this work today is a cardboard cereal box, again like this one. Okay, so hopefully you're getting through the breakfast cereal at the same rate as my children. You've got quite a few of these around the house. You may also find it useful to have some kind of scrap card of this sort. So this is the kind of sort of corrugated cardboard box, the kind of thing you get Amazon deliveries in. It's best if it's a single thickness corrugated card like this. Okay, sometimes if it's a more heavy duty box, you might have 2 or even 3 layers of this corrugation in the card. That's going to make it quite difficult to cut. So if you're getting some of this to use today, try and make sure it's the single corrugation stuff like this. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to flip this over. Now, you will perhaps remember from previous demonstrations that when I was characterising my eyes and adding detail to my eyes, I kind of went for these sort of scaly type shapes around the outside of here. And as I was doing that, I was thinking, yeah, they're okay. It sort of reminds me almost like a bird's eye, this. And these are the kind of tiny little feathers perhaps around the outside of the eye. So I had the idea that I'm going to give my creature a kind of bird beak shape, a sort of an eagle kind of beak shape. I think I'm going to go for with mine. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do this, and then I'm also going to show you an alternative one, which is a little bit more like the dragon that I have been using as the main example. So what I've done here, so a couple of things. First of all, I found the narrow edge of my box panel here, and I've drawn a little kind of line down the middle of that, like this, okay, marking a sort of halfway point between here and here. And then what I've done is I've drawn off the side of here half of my beak design. If I fold the box in half along that corrugated side like that, and I bring my kind of mask back in here, we're sort of imagining that this is going to go onto the side of the head, something like this, okay? So that's going to give you an idea of the sort of shape you want to be drawing and around about the kind of size that you need to be drawing it. What's really important is that the design that you draw comes up and touches this middle point here at least one point. So the top of my beak here is touching that middle line. The bottom of my beak I've kept slightly shorter, and you'll see how that works in a minute. So draw half of it like this. Then I'm going to fold that in half, like so, and then I'm going to cut this out. Okay, so start chopping away here. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm going to keep the 2 pieces of card gripped together as tightly as possible, so that I'm getting 2 halves of my design, more or less the same. Come in here like this. And I'm going to keep all of the little excess pieces of card as well. So all of the little offcuts and things, I'm going to hold on to those because they'll definitely come in useful later on. So all of this stuff I'm going to keep. Okay, so cut all of that off. And then, because I've got this kind of piece just sort of sticking off the side here, I'm also going to cut that off so that it's the same. So I can chop this bit off the bottom. I'm going to go up here as well. Like so, so that then opens out. I'm left with a symmetrical shape, something like this. I'm then going to join together these two bottom halves of my kind of beak shape. With a little bit of my gum tape. So this is going to pull the thing somewhat slightly out of shape, but that's okay, don't worry about that. Just get those two things there joined up, connected up like this. Fold it over there, and over there. Okay, a little bit of tape on the back of that as well, it's important. That's quite strong. So get that on there. Go over there. That's one of the great things about this gum tape. It is a really, really strong fix actually when the glue's dried. It's much, much better than using, say, masking tape or sellotape. Alright, so now that that's just had a moment or two just to dry and to set, so that's nice and strong, we're now in a position where we can take this kind of beak shaped thing and we can start pulling it out and kind of imagining it as a three-dimensional shape, something like this. And obviously what we're going to do is that's going to be fixed onto the front of our kind of mask superstructure like that to start creating the kind of the form of our creature. Now, there's one sort of issue with this we just need to take care of before we start thinking about applying it and sticking it onto the mask, and it's to do with the graphic pattern on the other side of my box. I don't want that to be visible in the final design, and actually the shiny glossy side of a piece of packaging like this isn't necessarily that easy to paint on, even if we wanted to paint over it. So what we're going to do is, before we go any further, we're just going to cover the whole of this reverse side here with sticky paper gum tape, like I've started to do here. So just take a break for a moment while I quickly do this. I'm just going to use small pieces of tape like this, cover it all over, and then just kind of wrap the edges around like that, so I've still got my overall shape. So I'm going to get on with that and then come back in a moment. Alright, so here we are then. Here's my beak type shape covered now on one side with paper gum tape like this, so both sides are kind of reasonably blank. Now that I've covered it over, I actually think that this side here is the kind of the neater, more tidy side. So that's actually going to be the side that I'm going to use as the kind of outside face. I'm going to make this bit here the inside. So as it goes onto my mask, it's going to go on in this way. So let's have a look and see how that's going to work. Here's my mask. Here's my kind of beak shape. It's going to go on like that. I'm going to attach it with paper gum tape along the edge here and along the edge here. So it's not too tightly onto the face, but it's allowing quite a lot of space and distance there between the two. Now I can tell that when I stick this on, I'm still going to be able to see quite a lot of the inside of the face here. And I'm not sure that I necessarily want to be able to see all of that. So before I put this on, I'm just going to add another little detail. And again, this is something that you can try, you can adapt, you can kind of, do it your own way. But here's the kind of principle of how this works. What I'm going to do is take a little scrap offcut from one of my cardboard boxes that I kept earlier on in the project. I'm just going to fix this onto the face like that, so it's kind of covering up some of the mouth. not really tightly over it like this. Okay, we're not trying to block the ability to breathe, but it's just going to come over like that. So it's just going to sort of disguise and hide slightly what's underneath. So a little bit of paper gun tape on one side of that. Just like so. And then another bit at the other side. Like this. Now what this is going to do is it's just going to give me an extra little kind of support piece, which is going to enable me to add a couple of extra details inside the mouth before the beak actually goes on, and that, yeah, that's just going to be kind of helpful, I guess, in terms of disguising and characterizing a little bit of what's going on inside. So again, let's just try that on there. Yeah, okay, that's good. Then I've got this. So this is just a shape that's been cut from my corrugated card. Okay, my sort of Amazon box type card. I've cut a slot into here like that. So a little bit like when I was making the hooded little bits above the eyes, I can pull those across like that and make a sort of curved shape. This is going to be a tongue kind of thing, which can go inside the mouth. And anything like this that you want to put inside the mouth, whether it's a tongue or, you know, teeth or whatever it may be, it's quite a good idea to kind of put those things on before you actually put the mouth on. So let's just put the tape to hold that in place. Like so. And then that, bend the back of it over. That can kind of go sink onto here. Let's have a look and see. Yeah, that's quite good actually. Perhaps sticking out a little bit too far, but that's okay. Maybe I'll put it over there like that instead. Cut it a little bit shorter actually. Okay, so again, the kind of beauty of working in this way is we can keep adapting, changing things as we go. Take the tip of that off slightly. Yeah, it's going to be good. So a little bit of tape on there. A little bit on here like this. Right, so there's my kind of bird tongue, and then the rest of the beak shape is now going to go on here like this. Okay, so I'm going to just tape this in place down the sides. Another one on that side, just make sure it's kind of central as possible. Just go on about there. So what I've now got is this three-dimensional thing protruding off the front of the face, completely transforming the human form of the head into something new. Okay, it's got a degree of symmetry like this. I've thought a little bit about some of the detail inside. And at this point, this is where we can really start to put the thing together in terms of adding the eyes and so on. Now there's a couple of little obvious details that we're going to need to work on next week. So the idea of filling this shape in here, okay, which is pretty straightforward, not that difficult to do. Equally under the bottom there, we're going to need to fill that in. Oops, that's just coming unstuck. But today's job is to get to the point where your kind of mouth shape, whatever it's going to be, is fixed on to the head in a secure way, like so. Now I'm also just now going to cut out the shape around the outside of my eyes and get rid of some of this excess cardboard, and then we'll come back in a minute and see how I'm going to fix those on, and then I'll also come back and show you one alternative shape that you can use for the mouth if you don't want to use the beak but you still want to be able to follow a bit of an example. I'll show you one alternative example quickly as well with that. Okay, so back in a moment. Alright, so here we are with the eyes. You can see here that I've cut around, got rid of a lot of the excess shape from around the outside. I've made a kind of little feathery type pattern around the outside of here. I suggest you don't just cut straight edges around here, but you try and do something there which gives this edge a slightly more suitable shape for your particular character, whether it's like a scaly type thing or spiky or whatever it may be. Just you know, use a little bit of imagination when you're cutting that out. But you can see here I've cropped quite closely to the actual sculptural form that I've done. I've not left a lot of space around the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start fixing these on now. For this I'm going to use a little bit of my PVA glue, a little bit of a blob in the middle of there, not too much. Just rub that around. Remember, this stuff sticks really strongly, so you don't need lots of it. Okay, flip that over and decide roughly where I want that to go. Okay, so I think something about like this is good. So I'm just going to hold that in place for a little while. Now this glue does take a little bit of a time to dry, okay? So I'm just going to use a couple of little bits of this tape just to hold it in place while it's drying. So I'm going to put a little piece just over here. Okay, stick that down there. I'm also going to put a little piece around the back here as well. I want this to kind of hold, I don't want it to be sticking up too much from the back of my mask, so I'm just going to pull that around slightly there and hold that in place at the top as well. So a little bit of tape across there, pull that back to the understructure, just kind of hold that. Now that's going to need just to be held for a second because otherwise it will spring off. Okay, but there we go, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, kind of perhaps just a little bit here as well, just to kind of pull in there. So you're just trying to kind of get the eye structure attached securely and firmly to the rest of the mask. Alright, so as promised then, here's an alternative shape that you can use, an alternative idea for the mouth structure of your mask. This is much more like the way that I made the dragon mask that I showed you several times already in the project. It starts off in very much the same way as the bird mask, but the shape that I've cut out here is slightly different, you can see, with these kind of flat ends the sort of centre fold of the cardboard. I've cut this in half and separated the two halves out slightly, and you'll see here I've glued across the back of there with a piece of thicker cardboard, like the Amazon box style cardboard. And I'm going to put another slightly shorter piece across the bottom here as well. Just going to use the gum tape for that. So, piece on there, like so. And then a piece on this side as well. And what I'm going to do here is just going to pull that slightly kind of in, like so. So the bottom part of the jaw is slightly shorter than the top part.
Daddy,
Yep.
can they actually see?
Yeah. Well, they'll be able to see the film. Yeah. So we've got a little special guest just watching us in today's demonstration. Now you can see that what happens when I fold this one, instead of the kind of pointed front shape that you get with the beak, because I've put these pieces of cardboard across the front, I get a much flatter front piece, which is much more like a kind of, I guess, like a dog or a dragon or something of that sort, you could say. Then I've got, it does look a little bit like a wolf, yeah. And then here, so these are sharp teeth like a wolf as well, look, yeah. And here what I've got is a piece of, again, Amazon box card, little triangle shapes like this, all just stuck on with my PVA glue. When I turn that over and curve it around, this becomes like the sort of inner jaw type piece. So I've got a top and bottom piece for this. And if you imagine that these pieces here will be stuck onto the mask in the same way as the piece that I put the tongue on with here. So they just kind of go across like that, above and below the eyes, so that you can still see through between the teeth. And if I kind of put this on over here, you'll get the idea, I think, that kind of makes the structure inside the mouth. If you want to do that particular style, that's how you would do it. Isla, come up here. So there you go. So that's an alternative idea, and it's up to you kind of how you adapt these or change these, but that's basically the concept. Hold on, come and sit around there. Here is the kind of the one that I've been demonstrating with today. I've put both of the eyes on both sides, so we're just going to have a quick little kind of demo of that being worn so that you can see how it looks. Yeah. All right, so here we go. So this is Isla just wearing the mask and modelling it, and you can see okay, can't you, Bean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she can see fine from there. If you just turn to the side so we can see the sides. That's it, so there you go. So you can see that now we're getting that real kind of prosthetic effect. Just move your head around left and right. That's it, and up and down. Okay, yeah, so there you go. So it's kind of obeying the movement of her head, which is what we want. So this is the stage that we're looking to try and get to today. Well, actually, maybe probably not today. This is a stage of the mask making, which is going to take you, I would say, probably a couple of lessons. And maybe you might want to spend a little bit of time on this during the half-term break as well, just to try and get yourselves up to speed up to this point. So I'll leave it to your individual class teachers to give advice about exactly how that's going to work. But that's the demonstration for today. That's where we are looking to get to before the next tutorial. So yeah, have fun. This is the exciting stage, okay? This is when it really starts, hopefully, to come together as a kind of structural creation. Okay, so yeah, have fun with that. Don't forget to post what you're doing on Padlet. If you've got a live lesson this week, make sure that you're in that live lesson and you've got your work to hand so that you can show it to your teacher live via Google Meet. And yeah, have fun, and we'll see you soon.